6 months ago, ISIS lost the last bit of territory it was holding to the Kurdish forces. The Kurdish fighters had been doing the heavy lifting in the fight against ISIS over the past few years. During that process, there were thousands of people that either were captured or killed or surrendered. The prisoners that were captured during that operation were taken to a number of camps throughout, scattered around northeast Syria, that are controlled by the Syrian forces, the democratic forces.
We went to Syria basically to find as many Canadians as we could, to find out how they got there. We got access to Al Hol camp, which is this sprawling IDP camp, basically, or refugee camp of 70,000 people, the vast majority of whom are Iraqi and Syrian, with a foreigner annex which houses about 11,000 foreign detainees, most of whom are women and children.
Now, Al Hol was originally intended to house 20,000 people. It was expanded to make room for 40,000 people. There's currently 70,000 people. The vast majority of those are children, and the vast majority of the children are under the age of 5. The idea that life in the camps will go on and will be untouched and Turkey will somehow come in and take responsibility for the people inside the camps, which is the line we've seen from the US administration, is just completely ludicrous. The situation there will get increasingly severe for people inside and outside the camps, and that again includes 22 innocent Canadian children that we've abandoned there.
Within the camp, there are apparently some very hardcore ISIS elements that are trying to control camp life. They're trying to create basically a mini ISIS state within the camp. And so they have been acting as kind of religious morality police. They've been punishing women who don't follow their code.
As soon as we arrived, we were told that there was some tensions inside the camp. According to the Kurdish authorities, a kind of morality police meeting was interrupted by Kurdish police. These women were basically trying to punish a fellow woman in the camp. This meeting was basically interrupted by Kurdish police, and 15 or so women were arrested.
At least 70 Kurdish police or soldiers with AK-47s, some of them firing again into the camps, and armed vehicles with 50mm cannons actually firing and moving into these camps. This was all taking place when the Kurds had control of the situation. Turkey's bombardment of the area is only going to get worse. It's only going to cause ISIS on the outside and on the inside of these camps to regroup. These people are still communicating. It's not like they're cut off from the outside world. They do have cell phones. They are communicating with each other. They do know what's going on.
The Kurdish forces do not want to hold these people. They want them to go back to their own countries and face prosecution there. Kurdish forces told us that if there were some kind of a Turkish offensive, they would realistically have to pull their forces away from the camps and prisons and put them on the front lines. And that would open the risk of escapes or attacks by ISIS on the camps and prisons to try and free the members that are being held there.
And a lot of these camps and prisons have been active for over a year. There were ample opportunity to go and repatriate our citizens. I've been twice in the region, have felt safe the whole time. So this broader argument that the Canadian government often puts forth that the region is unsafe for our officials, I see as largely a political cop-out. Now, of course, with the Turkish government's kind of encroachment into the region, things are much more unpredictable and indeed much more dangerous. And so it has become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. We kept saying it was too dangerous for us to go in, and now it has become too dangerous for us to go in.
One of the Kurdish leaders I spoke to, he described it as disrespectful, that they had done all this fighting on behalf of countries like Canada, and we wouldn't even take the little step of bringing back our citizens that have been captured.
Here they came to kill us and came to kill our kids and to destroy our towns, actually. So doing nothing towards those citizens, I mean, that's really not respectful, actually, for the sacrifice that we have done.
It's much safer to bring them back, prosecute them here, and imprison them here, as opposed to leaving them in a very unstable situation where it's not at all guaranteed that they're still going to be detained weeks or months from now, that they could escape, they could be freed, through attacks, and then where will they go? We'll be back to the situation of 6 months to a year ago, where there were a number of Canadians that we didn't know where they were, only that they were in ISIS territory.
I think the only explanation for Canada's failure when it comes to this situation is a lack of political will. And because it's unpopular domestically and we're in an election year, nobody has the moral courage to stand up and do the right thing, take responsibility for our citizens and our obligations to the international community.